Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Play Callers probably bring to you the Play Callers Sports Talk Show on Friday night. And this week, as you may already know, we're going to be discussing several juicy tidbits, including the NBA Conference Finals, Eastern Western Conference, paths to get there, and a couple of other things that may have happened in the world of sports this week that you may not or may not, excuse me, be aware of. So just tune in. It's going to be a lovely ride, and we'll have some fun and interact along the way. Beside me is my co-host, Stephen Box. Stephen, what's good, man?
What's good? What's good?
Chilling, man, chilling. And below him, we have the one and the only JJ himself.
What's
JJ,
going on?
what it do, man?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I cannot complain. And then, of course, beside him, the knowledgeable Coach Dante.
How y'all doing, man? How y'all doing? Honored to be on here with you guys again. Let's get into some playoff basketball, man. Let's do it.
You already know. So, as Coach Dante has requested, we will be discussing first the NBA Conference Finals. We'll start over in the Eastern Conference, where we have the Boston Celtics hosting the Miami Heat tonight for Game 2 of that series. Game 1, the Miami Heat put a little bit of a, I would call, spanking upon the Boston Celtics. But before we get to that, just in case you don't remember, we just need to let everybody know who we are. So we'll be right back after these important pieces of information. And Steven, we'll start with you, man. Thoughts on the conference finals in the East, and thoughts on the path that both teams took to get to their current spot.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit in terms of them getting there. I mean, we expected Boston to be here, right? But Miami, we didn't necessarily expect them to be here. But they're just that gritty team, man. And they have found ways to win games against teams that, quite frankly, they were not actually better than. And they did the exact same thing in game 1 of this series. They went out and they beat a better team. Because the thing is, Miami is a team that is going to bring it to you for 48 minutes every single night. And I think where Boston can get in trouble in this series is they have a tendency, and this really is true of the two teams in the Western Conference too, to take nights off or take quarters off or get complacent in the middle of the game. And you can't do that against a team like Miami because they are not going to let up. They're going to be absolutely relentless in the way they come at you. And so I'm not really surprised that Miami managed to steal a game and steal home court already in this series. I do think that if Boston actually shows up and matches Miami's intensity, which they can do, they're the better team and they will win the series. But if they continue to come out and play lackadaisical, they're going to mess around and lose the series.
All right. And JJ, your thoughts, sir?
I mean, Steven, you said a great point. You just can't let up. And, I think when you look at these teams out here and you look at what happens to them when they get double-digit leads, the other team that's on the opposite end quits. Miami doesn't quit. Miami just continues to keep going and keep going. And it's just, they have arguably the best coach left in the playoffs, championship pedigree. There's not a situation that they've been in that they don't know that they can't come back from. And they've taken game 1 every series this postseason. Every single one. And the same players show up more times than not. When you have 7 undrafted players given impact minutes against all NBA caliber players and all NBA players, Jason Tatum, 2-time All NBA in a row, and you come out and you actually outperform them in the most important quarter, that's your heart. That's your effort. That's your coach. Your coach is Spo is just out coaching everybody right now. Like there ain't nobody can match him on the Eastern Conference, and it's just I thought Boston would come in with the intensity to match because I seen how they played Philadelphia, but Boston throughout the playoffs will occasionally just think they get up by 16 and be like, all right, good, they quit, we done. You can't do that with this team. You just can't. So I love Miami's path because Miami genuinely believes that they can go as far as they need to. They can look, which is starting to very kind of possibly remind me of Dirk in Dallas and how we didn't know what could happen with them, but they just kept winning and kept winning and kept winning. We don't know, but it's a good chance. It's a good start for Miami.
All right, Coach Dante, what are your thoughts?
I got a bold take to say, and I'm gonna say this because I've seen this man consistently do it each and every year. I'm gonna say I'm officially, putting Jimmy Butler in a top 10 ranking in the NBA. You need your star to show when it matters the most, and Jimmy Butler is one of those guys. When it matters, it's hard to stop him. He showed the ability to play make time and time after again. He showed the ability to knock big shots. That shot that he made from the left wing, shot clock running down, that was the toughest shot you can make. But he shows the dog, he shows the passion, he shows a little bit of the leadership, he shows a lot of the leadership. And again, like we all said it, Eric Spoelstra, I think to me he is the best coach in this NBA. 3 NBA titles, one without the first one was with Dwayne Wade being Batman and being the Batman and carrying the team to the finals himself and winning it along with Shaquille O'Neal, and then back to back with Wade and LeBron and Bosh them. But Jimmy Butler is the driving force of this team. This team gets after it. They're physical. And you got to give credit to Matt Screws and Caleb Martin. They making shots, man. Them guys are making shots. Them guys, Kyle Lowry, he hasn't earned up to the 85 mil that they gave him, but he is productive. He was on fire earlier last night in the first half. So you got to give those guys some credit. Bam, showed his ability to make that floater in the lane and make a consistent jump shot. And also he's a very good playmaker as well. So, but Jimmy Butler makes everything go for the Miami Heat, and he's shown the ability time and time after again that he's ready for the moment. I mean, look what he did to Minnesota. Minnesota's on a 13-year playoff drought. He gets there, they're a playoff team. He leaves there, they spin out of the playoffs for a couple of years until they got Anthony Edwards. Now look at his impact on the Miami Heat. NBA Finals, back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals, and this game too tonight. If Boston lose this game, Boston may be up on the fire. They may be up on the fire if they lose this game because 2-0 lead with Jimmy Butler playing right now, the way they're playing, giving them a lot of confidence going into Miami. And it's hard to beat Miami so far in these playoffs inside of Miami.
So I would agree. I think Jimmy Butler is a top 10 player in the league. I think he has been. Not necessarily just because of the run, because of what he's done on the defensive end of the court, how he's been the driving force for this Miami team from all the years that he's been here. He's the main key component in their resurgence along with Eric Spoelstra. So I definitely don't think it's, at least from my opinion, an off-the-wall take to say he's a top 10 player in the league as of today. I think Miami is the better team. I think Boston is the better collection of talent. So this is a classic of let's see if the better collection of talent can beat the better team, or if the better team to continue what they've done for 2 rounds already and beat the better collection of talent. Milwaukee was a better collection of talent. I think New York was a better collection of talent, but neither one of them were better teams. So throughout a series, they lost to Miami. Boston had a lot of trouble with another collection of talent that wasn't a very good team together, who's basically been destroyed since that loss, and that's the 76ers. Philadelphia got a bony in the first round, a bunny. They took care of business. Boston, at least a piece of a series in the first round. They get to the 76ers series, they do their thing. So I think when you really look at it, this series comes down to simple. The age-old question. team or collection of talent. I'm going to go. I'm even surprised myself with the team, and I'm going to go with Miami.
It's certainly possible. It's definitely possible.
I can't even believe I'm saying that, but I'm going to go with Miami, literally. But I mean, you look at it like it's team. We talking sports, and this is on any level. We talking sports about the team versus the individual, the great player versus the great teams. Miami's they shouldn't be there, but they are, and because they are, they're not going to lay down. They're not going to go home. There's no pressure on them. They're playing free. They don't. We talk about all the time with different teams, and we'll talk about it in another series, but there is no pressure on Miami. If Miami loses the next 4 games, this has been an above expectation season for them from every front. That's just, how I feel about this series.
To your point, I just want to say something real quick. Whenever Miami demoralized them, Max Strus's threes in the end just took it out from them. And what happens when you see this team like they did against the Warriors last year, when you take the fight for them young guys just turn into the opposite of what we've known them to be, which is all NBA players. Like, look at Jason Tatum down the stretch. It was just absolutely bad. JB trying to get in, forcing shots. They just got humiliated, and it's because they think like when they wave their arms like they did after that 3 from Max Strus, you're in for problems because they just pretty much gave up. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Cool. That the team that this team reminds me of is that 2004 Pistons team. Where there wasn't anybody on that team that you necessarily said like, oh, they're just like the greatest thing besides, Jimmy Butler. I think you kind of put into that conversation, but outside of that, there's really not another superstar out there. But as a collective, they play hard and they play together. And that can be a scary thing to face in a 7-game series.
Yep, it definitely can, man. And it's not to me, at least, it's not a shock what we have going on because, like I said, if you just pay attention to the team dynamic, team to me always supersedes individual play, and you have those 2 different dynamics in this game. So, Coach Dante, did you have any final words that you wanted on this series before we go ahead and hop over to the Western Conference Finals?
Well, you saying what I've basically been saying all along. I thought in that New York Knicks series, I thought New York was the better talented team, but I thought they were better talent wise, but I just never got the sense. Once Miami beat once Miami just kind of beat Milwaukee, I got to just sense a presence. They're the better team, actual far squad. 7 undraftees. They're not gonna. They're not good by name, but they good because they great because they play hard and they give it all they got. That's all it is. And you got Pat Riley, that endurance, hard work and play. And with Jimmy Butler being over there and Kyle Lowry, you got toughness over there, leadership over there, championship quality over there. So other than that, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Miami wins this series. They took them to 7 last year. It was a great series. So many people thought questioned Jimmy Butler about taking that 3-pointer, but at the end of the day, he was tired. You can tell he didn't want to go into another overtime. He tried to end it right then and there because he had to do a lot. Remember, in that game 6, he had to do a lot to even get him back in Miami. He had to literally won. He was literally the sole reason why they won that game to even get in Miami. For him to have a game like that in Miami, plus Tyler Hero clearly couldn't play. I don't even know why he was out there on the court. He clearly couldn't move and couldn't play with that hamstring injury. They tried to force him to play, but for Jimmy Butler to put up the performance he did, you can tell. Hey, he wants this matchup, and he want to beat Boston. He want to stick it to Boston. He really does.
Fair enough. So, gentlemen, and we'll start back with you, Coach Dante, and we'll swing the other way this time. We have another series, and that is the Denver Nuggets, who are now up 2-0 on the LA Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. So, Coach Dante, same thing, your thoughts on how these teams got here, as well as, on this series so far, your expectations for the remainder of the series.
Well, my expectations for the remainder of this series, like I said, I had Denver fortunately winning the series in 7 games. But what I took away from between Golden State and the Lakers series, Golden State is basically a jump shooting team. They live and die by that 3-pointer. And when you're not making them, that plays right into the hand of the Los Angeles Lakers game. Now, for Denver, it's different because you got guys that can actually get into the teeth of the defense and create and make it hard and make the Lakers defend like a Jamal Murray, turning into the bubble Jamal Murray. Michael Porter Jr. dropping you 16, making some tough shots. And also Jokic, I thought last night he made Anthony Davis work. He made Anthony Davis work a lot. I thought he defended him well. I thought he moved his feet laterally. I thought Jamal Murray hit some big time shots in the fourth quarter, which is I thought they were well defended. Nothing you can really do about that. He just hit some tough shots, but otherwise, and I thought Denver played a very good defensive game. I mean, first of all, 103 points. That's not bad. That's not a bad margin to give up. But I thought they executed well when they need to, even if they almost even giving it back to the Los Angeles Lakers by turning the ball over and fouling a lot. But I just thought it wasn't the Lakers' night. AD struggled. LeBron settled for too many threes. 0 for 6 from downtown, not going to get it done. Seemed like D'Angelo Russell, when he's not on, he hurts the Lakers' offense more than he helps it out. It's just a lot of things, a lot of adjustments, and a lot of things need to go on for the Lakers to win this series. You're not going to beat Denver by trying to outscore them. It's just not going to happen.
All right, and JJ, what about you?
At first I just realized that the two of you guys actually are going against each other right now. So this is really awesome right here. But Anthony Davis, coach said it. He's going to have to work. He is going to have to work if he's going to have to make an impact to neutralize Jokic, because Jokic doesn't overexert himself. He's consistently just constant. And the thing about him is he knows when he needs to be aggressive, and he knows when he needs to facilitate based off of how they're playing him. Now, I think the Lakers, when they got up big, they just could not hit shots pretty much the rest of the way. And if you're a team that isn't the better shooting team, or in my opinion, the better offensive team, when you up, you got to stay up. LeBron, you got to stop them threes. I'm going to be very honest with you, because they started depending on you shooting that three because they knew they was going to get the rebounds. It's not your game. And it's not saying that you shouldn't shoot those shots because you are a top 2 player on this team, but you had other options at those times you're shooting those threes. It's like, make the right play, which is what we've known you to be for so long. I had Nuggets going up 2-0 because I think, Jokic is really taking this personal about how people have pretty much said that Anthony Davis was going to have his way this series and Jokic was going to be somewhat neutralized. Like, this a triple-double, and the triple-doubles numbers are outstanding against a top 5 big man as a defender. I think the Lakers, you better hold serve at home. Otherwise, my prediction is Nuggets in 7, but I think it can go to 6 if you don't handle business. The Nuggets offense is just too. Yeah.
All right, Steven, your thoughts?
So, as the resident Lakers fan, so here's what I've got going on right now. I think JJ made some good points, as well as Coach Shante. And when I watch these first 2 games, what I feel as a Lakers fan is this series could very easily be the other way. We could be up 2-0 right now. We absolutely played the worst first quarter of basketball that you could possibly play in game 1. Couldn't have been worse. And I get that Denver kind of lit up a little bit, and that allowed the team to get back into it. But they didn't play as bad as we played in the first quarter. So I felt really good coming out of game 1. Game 2, LA had the game in control. I mean, let's be honest. LA probably should have won game 2 by double digits. But the reality is they hit 2 cold spells in that game where they could not hit the wide side of a barn. And to have that happen and then to have Jamal Murray heat up at the same time, it was just too much for them to overcome. my big concern going forward as a Lakers fan, even if we make it out of this series, is LeBron is breaking down late in games. And I think the wear and the tear of the season and his age and everything else is catching up to him. And you can see it because he's settling for too many jump shots. He's not being aggressive. He's not getting to the hole. Every time that we drove to the hole, Denver was like slapping, fouling. They got away with a lot of them, but they also didn't have to worry about getting away with a lot of them because the Lakers were not punishing them because they were getting called for a lot of them as well. So the Lakers just kind of gave up on driving in. They weren't pushing the issue. They need to get to the free throw because the reality is the Lakers have the worst transition defense of any team left in the playoffs. And if you have horrible transition defense, you can't afford to let a guy, especially a guy like Joker, who has elite passing skills. I mean, this dude could probably play quarterback in the NFL, really, like with his passing skills. You cannot allow that guy to be able to get a rebound, look down court, and find a wide open guy. He's going to hit them. And if you're just jogging back, they're going to hit wide open shots. So would it have been ideal for the Lakers to win game 1 or 2? Absolutely. Is the series over? No, it is not. LA just has to go and actually do the same thing Denver did, defend home court. They haven't lost the game at home yet either. So there's no reason to believe. It's not like they got blown out in either game. They were in both games. They had a chance in both games. So they get win games 3 and 4. The only thing LA has really done by not getting one of these first 2 games is they've made life more difficult on themselves than they should have, right? Because if you win games 2, 3, and 4, even if you lose game 5, you can still finish it in 6. Now you've either got to go and win 4 straight games to finish this in 6, or you got to win a game 7 on the road. And either one of those are a really big ask against a team like Denver. And I'm sure that Cool will back me up when I say this. When we beat them in the bubble in 2020, I told him, it is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when your team is going to win the NBA championship. This is a very talented Denver Nuggets squad. And I'm picking the Lakers to still win the series. I mean, it's my team. Of course, I'm going to still pick them, but I think we're capable of winning it. It's not just a homer pick. I truly do feel like we can still win it. But I also won't be surprised if Denver manages to pull it off and goes to the NBA Finals.
I've been saying for 2 years, wait until we're healthy. 2 years ago, for those of you who remember the year after the bubble, we were basically the team to beat out West. Jamal Murray gets hurt when he shouldn't even been in the game. We end up making the playoffs. We end up winning our first round series. We play Phoenix in the second round. Michael Porter Jr. back gets hurt early in that series. So now we asking Jokic to carry the team with a bunch of no-name guys, right? And Aaron Gordon. Because Aaron Gordon, he's a solid player, but he's not a guy that you want to be your top 2 or 3 offensive option on a consistent basis. All last season, we had all these fans of, especially teams like the 76ers, who were hating because Joel Embiid, and I'll say this right here, as a total basketball player, including intelligence, is not as good as Nikola Jokic. You don't like it? Who cares? Fans of other teams as well. A lot of doubters, a lot of people in the media in different places. Even though the Nuggets are up 2-0, like Jamal Murray said in his interview yesterday after the game, we're winning. We're up 2-0. But everybody's still talking about the Lakers. Go ahead and keep doing it. That's extra fuel for us to get to the championship. I've said this throughout the season, and people said, different explanations and different reasons. But at the end of the day, you give a team that has as much or more talent than the team that they're playing, a younger core of MVP, or let me not say MVP, a younger core of top talented players. You give them home court. They defend the home court in the first 2 games. You exponentially have a higher possibility of winning. And let's not even forget, they finally threw in a positive stat for the Nuggets last night after the game, because they had to win 2 games to get a positive stat. That positive stat is the Nuggets are 6-0 in the playoffs when they go up 2-0. And that doesn't mean we come out and we finish the Lakers in 4 games. We're not going to do that. The Lakers are not going to go down without at least winning, 1 game, right? I'm not saying that they're only going to win 1 game, but let's stop the people that are now jumping to the sweep. The Lakers are going to win at least one of these 2 games at home. If you're the Denver Nuggets, from our perspective, we went in and we secured the home court for the remainder of the series. That was very important because that allows us to have a game 7 in our place. Whereas if we lost home court, we could have lost the 6, right? Either way, we're going to have game 7 in our place. But these 2 wins put us in a prime position to go out and say we need to take one of these 2 games in LA. If we can take one of these 2 games in LA, the series could be over in 5. I have it being over in 6. I wouldn't be surprised if we take one of these 2. It could be 5, it could be 7, but I have it in 6 because I have us winning game 6 in LA to finish out the series. Losing, my expectations will lose these 2 so the Lakers get back into the series, and then we'll go out and win 2 more. That could change. They could win 3 in a row. We can win. The series is not over until the last game is played. But for me, we're doing exactly what Denver has been doing all year. Everyone said, Davis is going to stop Jokic. These guys are too big for Jamal Murray. No one can guard LeBron. As my coach said, Father Time is starting to guard LeBron a little bit as well. So for everyone who wants to talk about his greatness and his age, I never said that he wasn't great and that he isn't doing wonderful things at his age. What I said is the same thing I've been saying for the last 4 or 5 years. Father Time is undefeated. You can spend $1 million roughly on your body and you can push it out, but you cannot stop Father Time. And Father Time is starting to even things out or get slightly the upper hand in situations. This man is not equipped at his age to go out and play what he had to this season and then turn around and play all these minutes in the playoffs, and you still want him to play at a high level. Some of these other guys are playing well. The whole Rui Hachimura situation with him and Jamal Murray, and Nikola Jokic. Rui's been a great addition for the Lakers, especially in this series here in the last series. But let's be serious. When Nikola Jokic decides, I'm going to take this little guy into the post, and when Aaron Gordon decides to catch all the passes he was catching early in the season and put them home with dunk shots like he was doing earlier, this whole helping over thing with Anthony Davis is going to be done. And if that's not done by game 3, I have an issue with the coach for that. LA still has to win 4 games, and there's still 4 games that they can win. So until they're out, they're not out. But I do feel comfortable with my prediction of the Nuggets in 6 with the way things have played out in the first 2 games. But again, for that to happen, we do have to steal a game from the Lakers in LA.
I'll just add because I didn't talk about this, but Anthony Davis has to impact the game offensively. Game 1, he did that, and he played really, really well in game 1. Game 2, he was defensively solid, but he gave the team nothing really at all on offense. Also, D'Angelo Russell, he has to step up. And not just standing around waiting on jump shots. He needs to drive to the hole. He needs to be a guy who's drawing fouls. He needs to really attack the basket the same way that Dennis Schroeder is. Schroeder might not be putting up a lot of points. He might not necessarily be getting a lot of those to fall, but he's putting the pressure on the defense. He's opening up opportunities for other guys. Austin Reeves is doing the exact same thing. As much as I like Jared Vanderbilt in terms of what he brings defensively, he is a liability in this series. He should not really be getting a lot of minutes. He's not necessarily bringing a lot defensively against his Denver Nuggets team. And I know he hasn't really been great. His shooting hasn't been what we was hoping it was going to be. But you got to put Malik Beasley into this lineup, and you got to hope that he can get hot because you need an outside shooter. Because at the end of that game 2, Denver started packing the paint because they knew LA was going to settle for jump shots if they did. LA stopped driving. They stopped being aggressive. If they're going to do that, you better find somebody that can start knocking down some threes and get Denver out of the paint so you have room to drive in there. Because when you drive to the hole, good things happen. There's a reason you shot more free throws than everybody else this year. It's not just because you're good at flopping.
That doesn't hurt, but I digress.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much our thoughts so far on the two series is the Eastern Conference Finals and Western Conference Finals, and obviously the winners of these two series will then clash to determine our next NBA championship, or the winner of our next NBA championship, our next NBA champion team. So definitely be ready to talk to join in with us next week, right? Because we'll be then discussing what's going to be happening um, from that point. Things could have shifted. We'll have more games played. Some series could be on the brink of being over. Some series could be tied. We'll see how things roll with that. But as of this point, that's what I'm seeing. Of course, my colleagues as well, based on what's been happening. So, before we move on to our other big topic of the week, which is just basically reviewing the NBA award winners for the 2022-2023 season, did have a couple of things to just quickly, say here, and if you guys want to add anything to it, then feel free to. But we did lose two very important people in the world of sports this week. We have had some people that we didn't get a chance to talk about, so these people are not more important than those people. They're all important, but we do have the time and the ability to talk about it this week. So first, Jim Brown, former running back for the Browns, passed away today. And then earlier this week, I believe there was another one, Steven, you were telling me about.
Yeah, superstar
Billy Graham. Yeah.
Yeah.
So superstar Billy Graham was important in the world of professional wrestling, back in the day. He's one of those guys to help bring some of the flair, keep the kayfabe alive, great worker, did a lot for the business. So, losing someone like that, it is very difficult to the wrestling world as a whole, and especially to those people that were close to him in his career, fans of his, things of that nature. Of course, family as well. And then also for Jim Brown, we know everything he's done as a player, everything he's done to advocate for Black rights throughout the years and equality, um, educating people, being that guy that transitioned from a player to, an actor and an activist, and how he impacted so many people in those different worlds that he had in his life. So definitely for me, and of course the show, rest in peace to both of those guys. If either one of you wanted to add anything about those two gentlemen, feel free to do so.
Yeah, so on superstar Billy Graham, for those who maybe just aren't familiar, a guy who really was Hulk Hogan before Hulk Hogan, really had a big influence on professional wrestling, really was one of the first guys to really make it about mic work, and just had a big influence on what wrestling became. So a lot of the guys that most people, if they follow wrestling, know about, those guys may not even have been who they were if it weren't for superstar Billy Graham. So definitely left a legacy behind. Jim Brown, obviously great running back, right? On the field, a great player. But Jim Brown's impact, I think, was so much larger than what he actually ever did on the field. As great as he was as a running back, he was even better in the community and as a person. Just a huge loss for the NFL family, just a huge loss for the world in general. A guy who really, as my co-host pointed out, just did so many things in his life. And it's definitely a life worth celebrating.
Definitely, my condolences goes out to Jim Brown. I don't know much about the guys, too much, but I just want to say my condolences to those Jim Brown and the other guy that wrestled. But I know Jim Brown, was a great running back at his time. So I just want to give my thoughts and condolences on him.
Definitely, man, definitely. So we'll move on to the NBA award winners. Like I said, we didn't have a chance to talk about them previously, so we can talk about them now. So we'll start with the Kings. So the Kings had a couple of awards that they won. The first one was Monty McNair was named the GM, well, was named the Executive of the Year, the GM Executive of the Year. And then their coach, Mike Brown, was the Coach of the Year. So did you guys have any thoughts or any thing to share about those two awards?
He thought it was the right move. Mike Brown getting the head coach of the year award. The Kings been damn near on a 20-year drought of not being in the playoffs, and for him to go to Golden State, and do that and lead the young Kings to the playoffs and get the best up out of those players that they have, turn that organization down with some savvy veterans and De'Aaron Fox taking this game up another level. You wish they would have won that series, but either way it goes, they didn't win that series. If they wouldn't got beat down in that series, this will be a successful season for them because they weren't expected to be in the playoffs. But again, De'Aaron Fox raising this game up another level. Malik Monk helping out this team with some good ball handling, 3-point shooting. Kevin Huerter the same. Harrison Barnes, even though he's a free agent this coming season, but other than that, definitely well deserved for Mike Brown to win that Coach of the Year. Definitely well deserved.
Steven?
Yeah, not only well deserved, man, but I'm actually happy for Mike Brown, a guy that over the years has taken a lot of criticism. He was putting in some pretty high profile opportunities where things maybe didn't work out the way that he would have liked them to, and he kind of got labeled as a bad coach versus being a guy who was put into bad situations. And so whether maybe at the time he just wasn't ready for those situations or whatever, right? But now he's got this young team. He's building it up. He's got them playing at a level above what they were expected to. Much deserved, and I'm really happy for him that he's finding this success.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys touched on a lot of the great points for those two, and then we'll hop to two more here. So we have Lauri Markkanen, who was named the NBA Kia Most Improved Player, and then speaking of De'Aaron Fox, Fox was named the Kia Clutch Player of the Year. So you guys' thoughts on that? We'll start with you on this one, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a problem with either one of those. I think that when you kind of look at awards like this, it's like, is there somebody else that jumps out to you that you think deserved it more? And I really can't think of anybody necessarily that I would have definitively put over either one of these guys. So I'm good with both of these.
I'm good with either one. Lauri Markkanen definitely showed what type of player he can be after the Bulls, traded him, and the Cleveland Cavaliers just basically didn't use him the right way. So he definitely showed he can be a focal point of that Jazz offense. So definitely well deserving.
Yep. And then Fox, of course, Kia Clutch Player of the Year. Same thing with that. I think he did show he was the first recipient of the award. It's named the Jerry West Award. So something interesting there as well. So two other guys that won some of the other awards before we get to some of those meat and potato awards. Steph Curry was named the J. Walter Kennedy Award winner, and that's an award that can go to a player, coach, or a trainer who shows outstanding service and dedication to his community. So glad Steph won that, as well as Smart wins his second straight NBA Hustle Award. And he was the first person to win back-to-back Hustle Awards and collects his third overall. If you guys have any thoughts on that, feel free to give them. But just wanted to kind of, let everybody know that those are some different awards to be aware of that, we'll have moving forward.
Mark, go ahead.
I was going to say, I didn't even know we had a Hustle Award. So,
yes, sir. Yep.
Marcus Smart definitely deserved it, man. That man put his body on the line each and every night for the Boston Celtics. He definitely, the Draymond Green of that Boston Celtics, the leader of that team, and he would do whatever it takes to win a game. So it definitely deserves it.
Yeah.
And the only difference is he doesn't punch anybody in the mouth on his own team.
Yet.
He won't punch anybody. He's not that type of player. All right, so we'll go with two others here. So we have Jaren Jackson Jr., no surprise, Kia Defensive Player of the Year. And then we have Malcolm Brogdon named the Sixth Man of the Year. And we're going to go ahead and throw another one in there as well. And that would be Paolo Banchero, another really not surprising award, was named Rookie of the Year. So do you guys have any thoughts on those three?
Obvious on the Rookie of the Year, and Malcolm Brogdon, how he's playing with the Celtics right now, deserve it. No Not even gonna get into Jaren Jackson Jr. 3 blocks a game. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't really have an issue with most of these awards. I think that, for the most part, the people who should have won. I did say both because I do have an issue with one award, but we'll talk about that shortly.
All right, and then to add on to Brogdon, this was the first time that the award's been named, so it's the John Havlicek award for him. I'm gonna say the one you have a problem with for a little later, sir. I know which one that is. I believe I know which one it is. We haven't talked about it, but I think it's pretty clear. But a couple of more things that we'll get into here is the all defensive team, first and second team. So the all defensive team, your first team was Alex Caruso from the Chicago Bulls, Drew Holiday from the Milwaukee Bucks, Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Memphis Grizzlies, Brooke Lopez also from the Milwaukee Bucks, and then Evan Mobley from the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then the second team, all defense, is Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat, OG Anunoby from the Raptors, Dylan Brooks from the Memphis Grizzlies, Draymond Green from the Golden State Warriors, and Derek White from the Boston Celtics. So any thoughts on those? Any guys you felt might have got snubbed? Guys you feel like they maybe shouldn't be here? Any thoughts on those guys?
Not too much, man. I thought Joel Embiid was deserving on one of those defensive teams right there. But other than that, Evan Mobley is a solid defender. No, I have kind of no problem with that. I kind of like it. Or Marcus Smart, you can put him on. You can put him on any all defensive team. The way he plays, very solid defense. Other than that, but I had no problem with the list.
Yeah, I don't really have much of an issue. I mean, I do agree that it's a little weird that Joel Embiid would win the MVP award but not be on the defensive list. Especially because that a lot of times that's how he impacts the game. So I thought that was a little bit weird, but at the end of the day, not that big of a deal. Cool. I don't know if you saw, but Megan did have some comments on some of the awards as well.
Yeah, I did. I was actually going to hop to those now, but before we go to the next list. All right, so Megan says Lauren has the most numbers, and I definitely don't want to take away from his improvement, but his role changed. He went from a role player to a number one option, so of course his numbers went up. Makes sense. Says SJ was my most improved because he improved the most in the same role. I can see where she's coming from, but technically the award is based on the numbers and that jump in numbers because he did kind of get that role due to the trade. I wouldn't have the thing with Shai is he did get better, but I think after what he's been doing and building up, I feel like I'm fine with either one of those having the award. You think about John Morant won the award last year, and you're like, how in the world did he win the most improved award? So I wouldn't have had a problem with either route that they chose to take. Then Megan says she loves Jaren Jackson Jr. He stepped up big time offensively as well. She definitely did have to step up. He didn't have a choice in doing so this season with everything that was going on with John Moran and different things, but he definitely did. Megan also says that Quickly was her sixth man. I wouldn't have had a problem with Quickly. I wouldn't have had a problem with Bobby Portis, and I didn't have a problem with Brockton because I think he could only be one, but I thought those would be the three in my mind that would have been there. She says also not hating on Brogdon, so I dig that. But yeah, so it's interesting, guys, because there's always someone we can talk about in almost all these awards that should have gotten it. It doesn't make it wrong or right. It just means that there's competitiveness, right? There's not just one guy that's standing so far head and shoulders above everybody else that there's not anyone else that could have that position.
Yeah. I will just throw in real quick that, we have seen guys who have changed positions, changed teams, whatever, and had that chance to become the guy and fallen flat on their face. So it's not a given that just because you get put in that role that you're going to excel. So I do think that, even though I get Megan's point, I think it's valid. I don't necessarily count that against him because you still had to go out there and put up the numbers. You still had to go do it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So with the we'll go over the Kia All NBA rookie first and second team. Excuse me, yes. All right. So Paolo Banchero was a unanimous selection. Obviously, rookie of the year makes sense. Walker Kessler's also first team. He's from the Utah Jazz. Banchero, of course, is from the Magic. Benedict Mathurin from the Pacers. Keegan Murray from the Sacramento Kings, and then Jalen Williams from the Oklahoma City Thunder round out the top 5 all-rookie first team. All right, and then second team, we have Jalen Duren from the Detroit Pistons, Terry Eason from the Houston Rockets. No, Coach Dante will like that one. Jaden Ivey from the Detroit Pistons, another Houston Rocket for Coach Dante, Jabari Smith Jr., and Jeremy Sochan from the Spurs. All right. So, guys, your thoughts on the NBA all rookie first and second teams?
Not a problem. Not a problem. Glad to have 2 guys up on there, Tyrese and Jabari Smith. Jabari Smith came on late in the second half, so that's part of the reason why he got second team, why he was end up on second team. And Tyrese has been very good all year long. But other than that, Pablo Banchero definitely deserved it. Walker Kessler was really a surprise rookie, really a surprise rookie for Utah before they finally shut him down at the end of the season. So no problem. I think they flat out got it right. They got that right.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't really have any issues here. I mean, honestly, I don't really get too much caught up on some of these lists. I feel like there's always going to be a person here or there that you could put on the list or leave off the list, but I don't really think that there's anybody that's a snub here, right? Like I don't think anybody got on the list that just didn't absolutely deserve it, and I don't think there was anybody who got left off that was just head and shoulders above somebody that got on.
Agreed. So a couple more comments here from Megan. And Megan, greatly appreciate your interaction tonight. Megan says, right, like I'm definitely not hating on the awards this year. I liked all of them. We just have preferences.
Absolutely.
And then she says Sochan should have got first team, who coincidentally is a Spur. And then she says, but I'm biased, laugh out loud. So I'll ask Megan this question and I'll put it up when she responds. Who would you have moved to second team to put Sochan on the first team for the all rookie list? And while we get that answer from Megan, I will go ahead and we'll move on to the next group here, which is going to be, sorry guys, just take a second to come up here. All right, so we'll talk about the all NBA first, second, and third teams. And I'm sure we'll have some thoughts on this as far as who should have made it, who didn't, who was where, all that good stuff. All right, so the 2022-2023 All-NBA first team. We have Giannis Antetokounmpo for the Milwaukee Bucks, Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks, Joel Embiid from the Philadelphia 76ers, the aforementioned SGA from the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Jason Tatum from the Boston Celtics. All right. For the second team, we have Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics, which just to put that piece of information out, I know we've kind of hinted on it before, him making all NBA second team escalates the amount of cash that he can earn in his max contract that he'd be eligible for. So that's something to pay a little bit of attention to if you're a team that may covet Jaylen Brown. It may be financially impossible for them to keep him and Tatum. They may make it work, but just a little tidbit. On the second team, we also have Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat, Stephen Curry from the Golden State Warriors, Nikola Jokic from the Denver Nuggets, and Donovan Mitchell from the Cleveland Cavaliers. All right, and then on the third team, De'Aaron Fox from the Sacramento Kings, LeBron James from the Lakers, Damian Lillard from the Portland Trail Blazers, Julius Randle from the New York Knicks, and Domantas Sabonis from the Sacramento Kings. So, guys, whichever one of you would like to start, thoughts on that. And also, Megan did respond here. So she says Jeremy had better stats than Walker Kessler. So I'm assuming she would have put him over Walker Kessler, which I mean, I wouldn't have a problem. Kessler didn't finish the season either, so I wouldn't have had a problem if he was on second team. I do feel like they got the 10 guys right, so that makes a lot. But Stephen, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on the NBA first, second, third teams? Anybody you thought they should have made it that didn't?
I'm actually trying to look over the list right now because I couldn't sit there and keep up with all like 15 names you were running through. So I'll let Coach Dante go while I'm looking this over.
So again, my thoughts on it is, like I say, man, I got no problem with these teams, man. We can go back and forth on who you think could have made it, who you think could have made it. Like I said, just a preference of it. But like I said, I kind of like it. I like it. I don't mind it.
So, and kind of looking at it, I feel like I understand why certain people got put, but there's one in particular problem that I have that I'll save because it's going to come up later. Um, but when I look at it and I see a guy like Jokic or a guy like Jimmy Butler on the second team, it's like I get that you got guys on the first team. You're trying to only have like one person per position, but those are not second team NBA guys, right? Those are first team guys. So that would really kind of be my only issue. But you only have so many spots, so I get it.
There's a lot of guards in the league. There's a fellow that played for the New York Knicks who I think had a better season than Damian Lillard did. Very small guy. You may have heard of him. No, you know what I'm talking about. But I think he definitely, Jalen Brunson is who I'm referring to in case the hints didn't catch it. I think he should have been in over Damian Lillard on the third team. I think Damian Lillard got that because of how great he's been in his career. And I'm not saying he had a poor season, but the amount of carry, the amount of work, the amount of stepping up that Jalen Brunson did, he honestly should have been also. I was waiting for this moment to talk about that too. He should have also been a guy that was up for most improved player because he exploded among all the statistical categories in that move and that shift. And if we're going to give the award to marketing because he left one team, went to another, and became a higher level player, we have to think about guys like Jalen Brunson who did the same thing and the great season that he had. So I think him not being at least on the third team is a little bit of a travesty, but it's not so bad that if you want to put Lillard over him, but that would be a change that I would have made based on this specific year, not the entirety of a career.
Yeah. I actually didn't even notice that until you mentioned it, but I 100% agree with you.
Yep. And then Megan says, winning matters. Brunson carried his team further than Dame. And to me, he had better stats too. So, but hey, it's not something where it's egregious, but I think it should have switched the other way. Now, ladies and gentlemen, everyone watching, everyone who sees the replay, this is going to be the one that's going to be fun. And I purposely saved this one for last. So we have the MVP of the league for this year. And that was Joel Embiid. So I just want to quickly say a few points, and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys. And also, I forgot to mention on the All-NBA team, Giannis was the only one that was a unanimous vote for the first team. Philadelphia 76ers fans, you now can be happy. You whined, cried, and opined for years that you wanted Embiid to get an MVP. He now has one. He, along with Jokic, are the only two MVPs that I can remember that didn't at least make it to the conference finals. Of course, Jokic in his second year had Aaron Gordon and a bunch of guys who were no longer there playing with him, and he still at least managed to take a game away from the champion Golden State Warriors in their first round series that year. Embiid had his full complement of players and just couldn't get the job done. Embiid has habitually not gotten the job done. Embiid has habitually been a guy who puts up stats in the regular season, misses games for injury, We now have in place where you have to play at least, I believe, 65 games, or you cannot be considered for awards. So that'll change some of these guys who like to do the load management and all those things. But I think even if you look at the regular season, did Embiid average a triple-double? No. Did he average more points? Of course, because he doesn't do the other things, right? If you only focus on scoring and you're never asked to be a facilitator, of course you're going to have better scoring numbers than someone who's asked to do more things for their team. We talk about most valuable player. What, to me, it's the player that has the most value to a team that has some modicum of success, right? So you don't necessarily have to be a top 2, top 3 team. But if you're looking at apples and oranges here, and we're comparing a Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid, because that's really the last 3 guys that were kind of tucked in there together. Embiid had the shakiest overall resume, in my opinion. Impact on the team as well as consistency. Those are areas that I see him fail in. He has games where he looks like the greatest player in the game today, and he has games where he looks quite pedestrian. And the points may not be that much off, but just his total impact on the game. My co-host Steven said earlier, there's been games where he had these where he's affected the games defensively and not offensively. There's been games where he hasn't affected the game defensively. He's just scored. He's flopped a lot. You know, as a guy that size, that big, he complains a lot. He always has ticky-tack injuries. I just think, for me, Joel Embiid cried and whined his way into this award before the season started. You got the award that you wanted, so congratulations. You're a regular season MVP. Yay, yay, yay. If you don't make some changes within your internal mentality as well as your leadership, this will be the only awards you'll get, because you won't get the one that you want, and that's a championship. And that's why, sir, your team is sitting at home now, because you, as the MVP and the face of the franchise, Cottonelle wipe soft.
So, Cool McCain, you know what? Got some interesting stuff that's going to help it out. You know, I don't know if you saw me all week long. I digged up, some dirt on Joel Embiid. And it's just not this playoffs. It's other playoffs. Digged up some dirt. See this? This is Joel Embiid's full playoff resume. Now, when you look at the full resume, Joel Embiid averaged for the last 2 years was the top scorer in the NBA, right? So his average dropped down to 23 points in the playoffs. That's 10 points down. Since 2021, Joel Embiid is 16th in scoring in the playoffs. Since we want to talk about the MVP and make every excuse in the book for the MVP, all he's hurt, his finger broke. He's playing with a broken face. He's playing with bad knees, but you knew he was going to get hurt in the regular season. Coming to playoffs banged up. You know who's in front of Joel Embiid in scoring in the playoffs? You got Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards already in front of him in scoring in the playoffs. Brandon Ingram, Bradley sniffed the playoffs, but he's in front of him in scoring. Jason Tatum, outplayed him in the playoffs, averaged 29 points on Joel Embiid, including with the big drop-off on Joel Embiid in the playoffs. Ja Morant is in front of him. Jamal Murray, that's in front of him, not outplaying him in the playoffs, but outperformed him in the playoffs when it matters. Donovan Mitchell is ahead of him. You know the guy that you just named that you want on the all NBA team? That little short guy for the New York Knicks, he's already ahead of Joel Embiid in scoring. And then Joel Embiid, this is what Joel Embiid comes in at. So then you go back to that. Joel Embiid, you go back, we want to find every excuse to make for the MVP. So you go back to the playoff resume when you talk about that playoff series versus the Atlanta Hawks. Game number 4 versus the Atlanta Hawks. You know what this dude did? 4 for 20 in game 4 in the playoffs. 4 turnovers. He had 2 games with 8 turnovers. 8 turnovers. The one that they lost, that they were about 25, and the one they lost 2 25-point leads, and he was responsible for one of those because he had 8 turnovers, including The highest scoring was 31 points in the game 7, and he had 8 turnovers in that game 7. Toronto, we want to blame about teammates. That guy Jimmy Butler that's playing with the Miami Heat, that was a pretty good team, wasn't it? Cool. That was a pretty solid team. That was a championship winning team, I thought, right there. Guess what this man did against Toronto 4 through 7? This man averaged 15 points in that series. 15 points 4 through 7 and 19 overall in the series. So we want to make all of these excuses about Joel Embiid as a top 5 player in the NBA and want to make all these excuses about, oh, he doesn't have the roster. Oh, it's the coach. Oh, it's Ben Simmons. Well, Ben Simmons is gone. Ben Simmons is gone. He wasn't a part of this loss. Brett Brown is gone. He wasn't a part of this loss. Now Doc Rivers is going to go. James Harden is going to go. What are all the excuses now? And Philadelphia fans, along with him, cried and moaned about the MVP and said Jokic is a fraudulent MVP. Why elevate? We get to Jokic, which is Jokic elevates in the playoffs. Jokic elevates his game in the playoffs. You know what he did against Golden State? 31 points, 13 assists, 13 rebounds, 6 assists. Joel Embiid versus Tatum in the playoffs. Joel Embiid got outplayed. Joel Embiid, 25 points. Didn't even average double-digit rebounds in that series. Jason Tatum, 29 and 11 rebounds. Out-rebounded Joel Embiid. And this is the granddaddy of them all right here. You got the Joker versus Embiid conversation. Joker, 33 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists in the playoffs. Last 10 ball games prior to the NBA Finals. 32 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists. You know what Joel Embiid averaged? 23 points per game. So Joel Embiid and Philly Nation, you guys are these excuses. And Coach Dante will close his case on that argument right there. But thank you, Cool.
So let's talk about this. During a good chunk of the season, we got on the show week after week. When the media talk about Jokic is the MVP. He was having the best season. He's a guy who goes out there consistently and performs night in and night out. He is a guy who is, by every definition, the most valuable to his team. Because I'm going to tell y'all, I don't really care too much about the stats. What I care about is what I see, right? I watch how teams play. And what I can tell you is there are a lot of games that the Philadelphia 76ers looked better without Joel Embiid in the lineup. You're not the most valuable player if your team can look better without you. So to me, I do not think he deserved to be in this position. I don't think he deserved his reward. I think there are two things that happened. I think there were a small group of people that decided to push a narrative that the only reason that Joker had won back-to-back MVPs was because he was white. And the NBA didn't want to give him a third one and have that become a bigger narrative. The second thing is, this is supposed to be a season award. I get that we don't include the playoffs, but we absolutely should. Because last time I checked, how you perform in the playoffs is more important than how you perform in a regular season. So to me, even with this being a regular season award, let's be honest, Joel Embiid was not the best player this season. He was a guy that at about the same time that everyone was really starting to try to make this push for why he should be the MVP, he goes out and puts up 50 points against Boston. And everybody decided because of one game that he should be the MVP. Now, he got a little bit of a benefit in the fact that Denver started losing some games and things like that. But guess what? It wasn't Joker's fault they were losing games. But Joker paid the price for it and not getting recognized because the team was losing. One game and having another team losing some games they shouldn't have been losing. That's the reason Joel Embiid got MVP. That and along with the media narrative that got pushed. he shouldn't be the MVP.
So
I
Megan
mean,
says
again,
fourth quarter Jamal Murray. Just want to throw it up there real quick. He does play like I'm gonna start calling him Bubble Mall if he keeps playing like this.
but I
Megan,
mean, again,
Megan, I just
I'm
want to
gonna-
say, I just want to say one thing to Megan real quick.
Go ahead.
It's too soon, Megan. Too soon.
want to kind of like I have no problem, with this season, Joel Embiid kind of winning the MVP award. I really didn't have a problem with that. But the problem is you're trying to find every excuse for this man. What if it's his teammates? What if it's the coaching? You tried to blame Doc Rivers for him not performing when Doc Rivers did everything he could to try to win that series. It's just James Harden and Joel Embiid just didn't show up. Hell, James Harden, the reason why you won the 2 games, why you won 2 of those games. Joel Embiid wasn't the reason why you won 2 of those games. When PJ Tucker literally had to get in his ear and cuss him out for not performing and for playing soft, evidently. But if you're going to shit on Jokic for not having both of his teammates and still able to get a game out of Golden State, who is of the eventual defending champions, if you're going to shit on Giannis for having a damn Eric Bledsoe on this team, well, let's give the same energy to Joel Embiid, who's consistently shown on this resume that have not stepped up time and time again. It's not his teammates. It's him as well. He's a big part of it. To me, Joel Embiid gets 90% of this blame how the Sixers folded in the playoffs.
And I just want to say, you may not have a problem with him getting the award, but I do.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if Jokic got it. It wouldn't make me. It would
That's
just
right.
go.
That's
it
why I
would
think
go hurt Philly fans more because they were going to keep taking jabs at Jokic about him being a fraudulent MVP. But look at this. This dude is in the finals, in the Western Conference Finals, and Joel Embiid can't even get past the second round of the playoffs.
All right, so Coach Dante, I don't do this often here on the show, but I have to say this.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Okay. That's all I got to say about it. Shout out to everyone that hopped on this week in the comments. Shout out to Coach Dante, JJ, of course, my co-host Stephen Box, as well as everybody who sees the replay. I know we got the NBA Finals going on tonight, as well as the WNBA season opening. We didn't get a chance to talk about that this week, but tune in next week. We'll have a little WNBA chit chat going on, as well as some other things. But shout out to everybody. We'll definitely be back in the building next week. Make sure you bring a friend, and make sure you tell 2 of your friends and 4 of your enemies, because what we always say, just because they don't like you doesn't mean they won't like us. Coach Dante, any final thoughts?
Man, I'm just happy everything is together. Just happy to be on the show, and just happy WNBA is kicking off, and playoffs is in the high gear. So I'm very excited.
Yep, and hopefully I'll be seeing you in a few minutes, Coach Dante.
Gotcha.
And Steven, any other thoughts?
Ain't nothing changed. I'm still calling Lakers in 6 until it's not true. It's true.
And with that, we out.